Hello, and thanks for coming along to And We Have an Office Dog, the digital agency podcast where we talk to agency owner-directors and learn more about what makes them tick. From the things that make them similar to the things they'd rather have known sooner, where they've had success and where they've learned some hard lessons. All will be revealed with your host, Chris Simmons, the agency coach, and he'll be talking to a different awesome agency person in each episode, asking them 4 questions and seeing where the conversation takes us over the next 25 minutes. Okay, so let us begin. Over to you, Chris.
Thanks, voiceover guy. And on the podcast today, we've got Carl Hewitt, co-founder of Hewitt Matthews. How are you doing?
Yes, very well, very well. How are you?
Not too bad at all, not too bad at all. We were just talking about how sunny it is in Portsmouth, where you guys are based.
Yeah, it's not too bad today. It's not too bad. There was a light frost this morning, but it's been like a crisp winter day down here. Where are you? You're up in London, aren't you?
Up in London, looking after all the suits whilst you're looking after all the wellies, as you said earlier.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We need to do a trade.
That's it. I used to love those days, walking through the woods, walking through the fields, but now you're walking through the tube. It's not so fun.
Yeah, not fun.
A little less friendly, put it that way. So Carl, tell us a little bit about Hewitt Matthews. Who are you? What do you do? What do you want to be famous for? What are you famous for?
Yeah, of course. So we're a paid media and web agency. So we focus on paid social, paid search, and then we have the other half of the business, which is website design and development. And we've worked in a wide range of sectors over time, as I'm sure a lot of agencies have, where, you know, listening to the podcast as well, a lot of agencies seem to take on everything in the early days. And then think, God, I'm really good at these 2 or 3 things. Why am I taking on the other stuff? So we're starting to really narrow that down and niche further, and we are showing kind of best performance in insurance, specifically B2C. So, you know, kind of automotive or home insurance, and selling policies for businesses there, and especially improving that user journey for the sort of up and coming younger generations who may be first time buyers, to try and resonate with them better, because they want everything yesterday, and a lot of people can give it to you in 3 to 6 working days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We all recognise that. So how long's the agency been going?
So we've been going for just over 6 years now, I believe, and we started in July back in when we were at college together, Reese and I. I think it was 2016, 17. So
Feels like a long time ago.
it does, and it flies by. I don't know about you, but it's
Oh, God, yeah. I feel very old these days. And so you guys did the whole kind of start from the garage when you're still in education style kind of thing, didn't you?
Yeah, it was interesting. We started in the college, actually. They very kindly found us a little room which was disused, and we figured out why pretty quickly when we saw the ceiling wasn't quite attached to the walls in the corner and stuff like that. But that was our first base, and yeah, we started with no experience, no network, no clients, so a bit of a back foot, but it was
But how cool does it feel to be where you are now? You know, as many clients as you've got, lots of good proof of value that you've delivered over the last six-ish years. That's pretty cool when you look back. I remember that. I know that feeling.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's so good to know, and I think what I love about it as well is looking at the clients who have been with you for a long time, and the way that their business and life has changed as well. You know, we've got clients who came to us with this kind of leisure centres. They had 1 or 2 at the start. They've just opened another one, and then another one, and then, you know, they're just expanding, and our work is what's doing that. And I love that. I think that's really, really cool.
That's awesome. So, what do you think's been one of the biggest successes that you've had since you guys started the agency together?
That's a really good question, and there's been a few. I think most recently we've just been shortlisted for a development project that we did, which has been really, really interesting, more on the not-for-profit side, where we're working with universities in the UK and refugees to the UK to give them access to higher education. And it's been an incredible process. It's 3 charities teamed up to get this platform built, and we did it for them. And we've just had like Oxford Uni sign up to it, and some really big names who are now putting their opportunities on the platform. And I love that, because that's going to genuinely change your life, you know, when and need that support. On the paid media side, there's been a few, again, in the insurance space. We've had an excellent sort of project piece of work with one of the leading gadget insurers, where we just, for years, they had this set number that was kind of their limiting factor of their CPA. And we came in and managed to drive that down pretty significantly by about sort of 25-30% from what they thought was their lowest they could reach. And that was really exciting. And that generated them a lot more revenue for the same spend. And so growth and profitability, and you can really track it with that.
So, I mean, that is a great success. And forgive me, I'm not expecting you to give us the secret sauce how you did that. But when you're trying to run an agency, I see lots of digital agency leaders who sort of say, you know, we're different to everyone else and we can do better than everyone else. But then quite a lot of the time that I hear similar conversations where you, like, for example, you just said we dropped the CPA really, really high, really well. But what did you do differently, and what made you different that made that possible? If someone else had spent so long on a ceiling, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think it's a very good observation of agency world in general. And I think a big part of that is because 9 times out of 10, everyone's playing with the same sort of cards in their hand. It's just more or less how you order them and how you apply those. And I think that's really the big thing, is sometimes it is a case of a fresh pair of eyes, just see something differently. And we work very collaboratively with the team that are already in-house on our approach to that, and just saying, well, if you tried this, what about that? And again, there's new techniques and marketing strategies and features coming out on a lot of platforms. And I think, again, being at the forefront of those, understanding how to use them as soon as possible. But again, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a differentiating factor. I think the big thing is how you apply those things, because you're all given that playing field.
Yeah, I think it's quite right. And you know, most digital agencies, realistically, it's a formula business. You know, people in, techniques, standard operating procedures, and client support, value, money out. But there is that application of that is interesting to me. I find it quite interesting, having spoken to so many agency leaders who all say results driven, strategic focus, or whatever that might be. And almost all the time, if you, like you say, it's the same set of cards that everyone's got. So, you know, when that happens, I find it interesting to hear we're different. But you know, like you say, you just sort of put your money where your mouth is, literally.
Yeah, exactly. And I think listening to one of your previous episodes the other day, one out on another crisp walk in Portsmouth, there was a piece in there around specialization. And I think this is the other thing, is a lot of people will say they're specialists by working with, you know, accountants or whatever it may be. But actually, there's a lot more that you need to drill down into in that, in terms of, well, we're working with accountants who advise on specialist tax problems for high net worth people who are based in London, who want to maximize tax efficiency. They've got 16 incomes, and really try and really pinpoint exactly who your clients are, so that there's almost none of them. And there's like a really few select people, and then grow back out again, because you'll still get that accountancy generalist business, but at least you've got a focus.
Yeah, totally agree. Focus is one thing that the agency leaders often lose very quickly, because of we need to pay the bills. So if you could go back, say 6 years or so, when you're in your strange little room in college, and you could talk to your younger self, and your younger co-founder saw you, Carl, appear out of nowhere and go, "Whoa, I've got some advice for you." What one piece of advice would you give yourself?
I think personally, for me, something we used to be very good at, and then, as you say, because you've got to pay the bills, and because you've got to keep the business and not rock the boat sometimes when you've got salaries and bills to pay, is just keep innovating, keep taking risks, and don't let perfection be the enemy of good. You know, if you've got something that you think has legs, just do it and run with it and learn something from it. And I think for a few years in the middle there, we kind of got a little bit safe, and we were doing what was working. And we were just sort of beating the same drum because it was safe and reliable. And now I want us to do things differently, and again, apply those cards in a way that we wouldn't have done before because the risk reward wasn't there. But it's something that I think a lot of people fall victim to. You get comfortable and don't get comfortable. Would be my point.
Yeah, I think comfort is often the enemy of growth, usually, and also comfort comes before the fall that you didn't even notice because you were so comfy. Do you think you'd listened? Would you have listened to that advice at the time?
I think if I'd have known that, I would have been more wary of myself falling into that trap, because it's interesting. You don't wake up one day and suddenly think, no more risk, I'm done. It's kind of, you just evolve into this kind of like, no, do you know what? I'm not going to pay £20 to go to that event, I don't think, because that's £20 I could save. And then you kind of just move on. And before you know it, you're not spending money on new tools or training, and you get into this rut of just working with techniques that were valid 3 or 4 years ago. And I think, again, that's another point to your question around what makes agencies different, is how often they're evolving those techniques and reviewing their standard operating procedures and things like that.
Yeah, one thing I love doing when I'm working with a new agency to help kind of guide a growth process is this. It's almost like a take 10 steps back and look at yourself. Like, let's write everything down, what you are, put it all on a big wall kind of thing, and step back and go, is this you? Are you supposed to be here? Could you be making more? Could you be doing better? Could you do less of this, and so on? And often the outcome is, yep, we could do more, we could do better, we should do better, and then it builds this is the first steps into your process to grow.
I think that's such a skill to have as well. Is well, 2 skills almost. That one that you're saying there of step back and look at your own agency very objectively and sort of say, look, imagine these faceless people who have come to you with an agency and this is the facts. Is that a good agency?
Yeah.
But then also that ability to zoom in and out. So like, yes, you're having a really bad Tuesday and it's been an awful start to the day and whatever, you've lost a client, but zoom out, your strategy's in place. It's still running. Yeah. The year ahead will be fine if you keep up these consistent things. You beat target last year. And just be able to kind of zoom in and out on what's important at the time is quite tricky as well.
With a fully formulated proper strategy that's got numbers in it, that's got measures of success, it's really easy at that point to take a punch in the face on a Monday and by Monday afternoon be fine. Kind of go, I know where we're going. We're still on target for that thing. This doesn't change the big picture. I'm going to change how I feel about this thing. So is there something that over the course of the last 6 years that you kind of, when you realised what it was, you immediately went, shit, and stopped doing it?
I wonder. I haven't thought about that before. Something that we need to stop doing. I think one thing we were doing a lot was with our reporting, we hadn't automated. We were so against automation of reporting because we thought it wasn't going to be bespoke enough, in-depth enough, and valuable enough to a client. And we were like, well, we can't write out pages and pages every day, and we don't want to send an automated PDF. So we started doing video reports because you could do them conversationally and send them out. And we started doing that a few years ago. And then I realized actually quite a few other agencies started doing that. And that's been a real game changer. And stopping writing for hours on end about the data and talking about it is actually much quicker.
Yeah, I think as well, it's so essentially what you did was you realized that through an element of laziness, you didn't want to write too much, but also because of that, I mean, we're all the same in digital marketing. We want to find the simplest route for most things. You kind of worked out the right way of communicating to people, and that's often how you keep clients, isn't it? You know, communicate the right thing in the right way and they'll understand it. They don't have to understand digital marketing, they just have to understand what it's done for them in some senses.
Yeah, and that's another big thing that again I feel is often overlooked, especially at proposal stage, and then going forward in that account management, is what level in the nicest way is the client app. Because if your clients run PPC campaigns and knows Google Ads inside out, then fine, talk to them about the scripts you've got running in their account and why that's important, and the bid adjustment and how real-time bidding works compared to manual CPC or whatever,
Yeah.
But if they don't understand that, you need to then change how you're talking and be quite a chameleon in those situations and say that, well, the clicks went down because of X, Y, Z, and that's why that works. And as long as they can bring that to the board, they're happy and the numbers are right. You've just got to be able to translate them in a few instances.
Yeah, and often it's real-time translation as well, because there's more than one person asking the same question in different ways. What do you think has been one of the the hardest lessons that you guys have learned, but something that's probably put you on a good trajectory for now?
I think one of the hardest things for both Reese and I was when we started the agency, we were the specialists in the company. That's what we did. We knew it inside out. And for me, my role is very much, I have to be out of the office as much as possible. That's almost the metric is if Carl's in the office, there's an issue. He needs to be out seeing people and being at things, because I'm trying to find the people that we can work best with and help. And so basically what that means is I then become less of an expert at Google ads or at social ads or at development and design. And then it's kind of a strange situation where someone goes, well, how does, Performance Max do real-time bidding? How's it get that data and analyze it? And I'm like,
Pretty sure Google just guesses. I'm going to say out loud.
Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know anymore. I'm going to have to come back to you from Steve or Chris, or someone will give me that information, but they're the account specialists and the people running PPC day to day. And I think it's understanding that that's the full-time role, and you top line, you can have a conversation about its value and how it works to an extent. And that's been quite a shift for me, because I'm a nerd. I love to know everything, but I've got to be out and talk.
There's only so much you can do.
There is.
So if there's someone listening to the podcast now who's maybe they're at college, maybe they're just starting out, maybe they're thinking about starting an agency, what one piece of advice based on, the experience of both of you, would you give them? What piece of advice do you think they take the most from you?
I think personally, my biggest piece of advice would be just look at the situation you're in. It's so unique compared to the rest of the world at the moment. You have no ties, no responsibility financially. You probably living at home. You've got the perfect setup to take a risk and start an agency. The worst comes to worst, you'll be the same as you were right now, this second. I don't think that's that bad. So if I were you, I'd just go for it. Just get started, get learning, and just get out there and find some clients, and don't put it off. This situation won't last forever. So I think make the most of where you are at the moment.
Yeah, make the most of the opportunities you've got. I mean, regardless, I guess, of your current circumstance, whether you are young and in college or living at home and whatever, but like any opportunity that allows you to do something which is probably still scary, regardless of whether you've got a big parachute or somewhere to land if it all goes wrong, a risk is still a risk. It feels like a risk regardless. If you guys had failed in the first couple of months of running the agency, you'd have had a parachute, you'd have had living at home, and you'd have had the opportunity to go get jobs or whatever you wanted to do or start again. You'd still feel like you'd failed and the risk was there. And I think take the opportunity that comes across at any time. If it's an opportunity and you're the type of person that would love to do like an agency business, then just try and do it. But maybe try and fail quickly, just in case it is you do get 5 years down the line and realize you're terrible at it.
Exactly. And I think there's so much value, and as cheesy as it is and cliche, there's so much value in a failure, and that's where you'll learn so much about yourself and what you enjoy. I think as long as you break it down and analyze it properly, what went wrong, what went well, then you can't really lose. That you've just got to make the most out of that.
Yeah. I think running a business, and especially running a digital agency, is the most valuable MBA you'll ever have in your life. It's way better than anything you can learn in a book. It really is, because the failures that you often have, they're kind of, there's lots of little small ones along the way that don't have an impact on the business as a whole, but they're lessons that you'd have never learned if you hadn't have just gone out and taken the opportunity to get there and do it.
I totally agree. I don't think we mentioned, but I dropped out of uni to do this full time. I went to
There you go.
Russell
Massive risk. You could have had a huge debt as well as a piece of paper that was useful.
Exactly, yeah, nice shiny piece of paper with a grade on it, and I dropped out, and much to my dad's annoyance at the time, he wasn't keen on it. Mum was kind of like, you want to do it, you go for it, you do that thing, and it paid off. But I think again, uni would have been there. I could have gone back. I could have done a degree apprenticeship, but the time we started the agency, that opportunity wasn't going to be there forever, and it was growing.
Yeah.
So it needed to be done, and I'm glad I did.
Brilliant. Great advice to end the podcast on. Take the opportunities and also let mum and dad feed you whilst you're doing it.
Yeah, I like it. Perfect.
Thanks very much for coming on to the podcast, Carl.
Thank you so much for having me, mate. It's been good to chat with you.
And you. And in the next podcast, we'll be speaking to a different agency leader to hear what they've learned and find out whether they did it with mum and dad feeding them. So
Can't wait.
thanks for listening.